2, 1. Welcome back to another episode of the Have We Made It Yet podcast. If this is your first time, or again, I know I always say this, it might be the 70th time listening. This is the show where two creatives and their guests talk about the process of making it. I am Lucas Ng, the actor portion of this podcast, and I'm joined by my co-host.
And I am Josh Yang, the comedian portion of this podcast.
He is the illustrious, gorgeous co-host of this amazing podcast that we have. Right. And if I may, Josh, I just want to extend happy New Year in 2022 and Merry Christmas, whatever you celebrated. It's been a minute, Josh. I missed you.
Yeah, it's been a long, dark. I keep going into like the long, dark periods of time in between. But I mean, it's winter. But like, hey, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year's as well. It's a new year. Let's hope it's not 2022. Okay, that pun has been butchered over and over again. Literally in the first few days, everybody's saying, "Oh, 2022. Oh, 2022." But yeah, let's hope it's not another 2020. So yeah, Happy New Year. Hope it's a better year for you and all of our listeners. But yeah, I mean, it's been all right.
If I may ask you, just to start this podcast off, because we do have a hard out today because we have an amazing guest here, Mr. Josh Young. In 2022, have you made it yet?
I have not made it yet. And, we'll just keep going until things happen and things make it or whatever. And, I don't know, maybe this year, New Year's resolution is to do more comedy when things open up again. Thank you, Omicron. But do more comedy when things get back, and then, yeah, take it one step at a time, progress, and then work towards it. But yeah, in that, knowing that, hey, yeah. Lucas, have you made it yet?
Josh, I forgot how like smooth your voice is, and it literally lulled me into like the most calm that I've ever been. I could have used you earlier today when I was at work. No, I have not made it yet. But I made my my demo reel for 2022.
Yes, I saw it.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Josh. Thank you. And it made me realize, although like when you go day to day, you kind of forget like the incremental progress that you've made. But after collecting those footages for this past year and beyond, it does make me realize, you know what, Lucas, it may not feel like you've done a lot, but you have. And be okay with that fact that you have done all that you could. So, of course, haven't made it yet, but I do feel steps are being made. And that's all I can really cling on to right now.
Yeah.
Josh.
Yes. Let's get into it.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. So for the first guest of 2022, we have a great one here. All right. So I first met our next guest at a Zoom panel during the Vancouver Asian Film Festival and was blown away by his experience in the film industry and overall desire for more Asian representation in film and TV. His experience is second to none, as he has worked behind and in front of the camera. He's done stunt work for the series Man in the High Castle and the movie Skyscraper. More recently, he's worked as a producer on the smash Netflix series Firefly Lane and the film Two Hearts. Currently, he's at the highly successful studio Brightlight Pictures in Vancouver as director of production and development, where he's developing a comedy series based on the amazing play Banana Boys. I recently read it, and it's an amazing play, Josh. His many roles in the film world makes him an invaluable resource to this, at times, confusing entertainment industry. He's the one with many hats. Please welcome Aaron Au.
Hello, and thanks for having me.
No problem. We're going to start it off with the namesake of our podcast here. Aaron, have you made it yet?
Oh, that's like, I don't know. That's such a big question, but I'm going to say yes and no. And I'll tell you kind of a two-part. Yes, because, we can get into more of my career trajectory and stuff like that. But you know, when I was a stunt guy, I set out to be a filmmaker, and I wanted to make that transition, which was a very difficult thing because once people see you as one thing, it's hard to be seen as another thing. Mm. You know, I was fortunate enough to join Brightlight Pictures in 2016. And I was finally able to start making a living off of doing what I wanted to do, which is a combo of writing, directing, and producing. More so producing, but you know, it was an opportunity to learn how to produce, produce for some of the major networks, produce some amazing, you know, independent films and stuff like that, and really get to a place where I can be influential. And to me, that's what's the marker of have I made it, is I'm finally at a point where I can start hiring, you know, people of color. I can start looking for projects and getting projects made by people of color. You know, it is definitely a timing thing. Not only am I at this point where I can do that, but luckily for us, you know, the world is finally open to seeing our faces and stuff like that. So, you know, in that sense, yeah, I've made it. You know, I just did a feature film called Float with the director Sharon Lee. You know, written by Sharon, co-written by Sharon, directed by Sharon, starring an Asian female lead, Andrea Bang. We had close to 25% of our crew were Asian. 50% were female, which is awesome. But it's just the ability to do stuff like that. And you know, I wasn't able to do that before, and I'm able to do that now, and I want to do that more.
Amazing. That's amazing that you do feel like it's a yes and no at the same time too there. You did talk about your producing work there too. And although producing is somewhat related to development work, how do you feel your producing work has made you stand out in the development world where you actually find projects to option and develop?
Well, being at a company that, you know, has a name behind it is obviously very helpful. But having the experience of, you know, and just kind of building a resume so that people can go, oh, okay, you know, he's worked for Netflix, he's worked for ABC, he's worked for Sony, you know, it just kind of helps when I reach out to find projects and stuff like that. Because, you know, if you're developing projects from the ground up, you know, it may not be as hard. If you're going for IPs, you know, it may be difficult because they go, well, who are you and can you pull it off? You know, do I trust you with my book or play or whatever it is, right? So that's where it kind of gets difficult. So I think, you know, having some bigger credits under my name is really what was able to help me get, you know, projects and stuff like that.
Sure. It really does feel like you had to like initially step by step process of like building that name for yourself. I swear this is probably one of the major questions that aspiring writers and people who want to create really have a big question for. It's, you know, when you're evaluating pitches and reading plays and novels, though, as a development executive, what hooks you? What keeps you continually reading and eventually wanting to work with this specific project?
It really comes down to story and character. And it can be about aliens, it can be about Asians, it can be about whatever. If this, and this goes, you know, this is what makes films successful, you know, it's got to be about, you know, connection, you know, like it's got to be about people, it's got to be human. If it doesn't have that, you can have the coolest world and coolest story, you know, and all that kind of stuff. And those movies do get made because, you know, the big names that have some big ideas, they get those movies made. But often they do forget about story and character and the strength that needs to be there. And when you get that, that's where you get these big blockbuster flops, because they forget that, you know, all the cool eye candy in the world and the coolest world you create or the coolest character look and style and stuff is only cool for a few minutes, and then we've seen it. Why do I care about this character? What makes this character interesting? And why am I going to spend my 90 minutes or, 120 minutes on this journey with this person?
Yeah.
And even more so, in the development of television, why am I going to commit 10 hours or 20 hours of binge watching with this person or these people in this world? So that's the most important thing. It's character, it's story, and it's authenticity too. I encourage people to write what they know. Yes, you can, there's people out there who can create characters and worlds and all that kind of stuff that they've never experienced, but it's always easier, obviously, to write what you know, and find that story that you find is unique to you, and tell it.
Absolutely. And just really just going right into Banana Boys, which I found was an incredible play there too. Was that the same connection that you felt when you still are working with that play and trying to develop it? Was it that kind of character connection that you felt?
Yeah, Banana Boys is interesting because Banana Boys has been over a 10-year journey for me. So it all started for me, it was early, I want to say like 2010, maybe even a little bit before that. And I went and saw the play. And, I knew some of the actors in the play, local actors from Vancouver, and, support local actors and support theater and stuff like that. And I didn't know what I was getting into. I just go see plays because I enjoy them. And I was sitting there watching, and I was kind of like dumbfounded. I was like, this is the first time I've seen like Asian men as people. There's no stereotypes. There's no ninjas. There's no nothing. There's no triads. They're just people. They're flawed. They have wants and needs. They're funny. They're vulnerable. And it was really like eye-opening to me. And one thing that it made me realize was that I, as an actor and a stunt guy, had never seen, auditioned, played any of those roles before. So at that moment, I said, I want to make this into movie, series, something. That was my passion. 10, 11, 12 years ago, nobody would put that on TV.
Yeah.
I could have made a movie about it maybe and got it out there, but there just wasn't really a huge appetite for it. And I also wasn't really, I had done a couple of short films, but I wasn't really, going to be able to make it big. Not that it has to be big production wise, but get it out there essentially. So I just kind of like had it in the back of my head. But what that experience did for me was made me realize that I had never got to audition for those roles and never seen these roles be written and portrayed. And I was playing Ninja number 1 and Ninja number 2 and Triad number 1 and Triad number 2. And even though being a stunt guy is fun and cool, I actually wasn't really happy with my career. And at that point, you could say I had made it. I had established myself. I was making a good living, all that kind of stuff. But it made me realize that I wasn't really fulfilled with what I was doing. So I at that point, I made a decision, and I said, I'm going to be a writer, director, producer. And I'm going to set myself a limit of time to do that. And I decided on 10 years.
Okay.
And when I told a lot of people, they're like, why would you take so long? Why, but the reality is, when you look at a lot of the successful writers and directors and producers, it takes time. With writers and directors, it takes time to hone your craft. It takes time to get world experience, all these kind of things. As a producer, it takes maturity. It takes connections. It takes, so many different things. And also I had to shed being a stunt guy and, get people to take me serious. So, that 10-year plan went into, action. I started making more short films. I joined another production. I got recruited to join a small production company. We did a couple feature films there. We ended up doing a bunch of web content, which was pretty cool and fun at the time. And then I kind of got to that 10-year mark. And I was making stuff. I was still having to be a stunt guy to pay the bills. And I was really focusing back on writing because that's what I really, really love. And for me, if I decided to leave the film industry or whatever, I could still write, and that's the great thing that I loved about it. But I was kind of at this point where I wasn't sure if I was going to continue the dream or shift.
Yeah.
And I decided to take a real hard look at it. And then like the opportunity to join Brightlight came up. And it was like, okay, well, I'm past the time that I said I was going to do, but obviously this is a huge opportunity. Let's take another crack at it. And I really wanted, like, my real dream was to be a writer director. But again, like, nobody would really produce me, and it was hard to get my writing out there, and no one was interested in Asian writers for a while or whatever. So I said, look, if I focus on producing and I work my way up as a producer, for one, I can learn and produce myself, or two, I can produce other people like me who don't have that opportunity and don't have that producer who, is looking for those types of stories. So, I kind of put my own writing and directing dream aside and just focused on producing. And, 5, 6 years later, I'm at a point where I can look at saying, okay, well, I'm going to focus on some writing again. And, maybe I'm going to do another short film. But more importantly, I'm looking to produce younger talent, specifically Asian talent, and develop their work and get them out there and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like when it comes to addressing those kind of systemic issues, when it comes to representation, you do need a bit of everything in every stage of the production, right? So you do need producers who have that kind of mandate to look for those type of roles and those types of talents. I mean, I feel like just thinking of the parallels between Kim's Convenience and Banana Boys, how Kim's Convenience started as a play as well, and then it got developed into the comedy series. When it comes to finding the right representative talent right now, I mean, the talent pool also needs to have that shift where more Asian talents feel like they can step away from the traditional, jobs of like trying to become a doctor or lawyer, that type of thing, to actually take that risk. How has it been right now to find the kind of Asian talent that's out there that can be a part of these new productions or developments?
It's been tough, Yeah. There's always a desire for people with experience and resumes and all that kind of stuff. And then when you look at the Asian community, it's like, okay, there's 6 or 7 or maybe a dozen. And they're all on various shows and that kind of stuff. When it comes to the up and comers, like, how do you find them? How do you go out? And part of the reason why I did BAF panels and all these various things was, to me, I use them as platforms to say, okay, I'm speaking, I'm telling you my story. Here's my email and here's my phone number. Call me.
Yeah.
And I got flooded with emails, and since then I've hired a handful of the people, and I'm developing a couple of the people, and all that kind of stuff. And that's kind of like the grassroots way of finding it. But what you mentioned about kind of Asians going away from the traditional expectations to what we're doing, it's tough. There's not a lot of people out there who are willing to do it. And there's a lot of people who go out and get their degree. And when it comes to writers, it could be a good thing that you go out and get a degree. Like, I've met a couple of, people fresh out of school, and they're like, yeah, I got my psychology degree and thinking of becoming a writer instead. And I'm like, no. That's awesome. You want to continue to be a psychologist because now you're analyzing people. And that's what we do, So it's like, again, life experience is great. The great thing about writing, like I said, you can be a doctor and write. You can be a lawyer and write. You don't necessarily have to 100% dedicate your time to it. And then if someone says, hey, this is a really good script, I need you to you know, we're going to produce you or whatever, then you might be able to step away from your job, or you might be able to just hand it over, or, you know, so it's funny because I was talking to the head of VAF about this, and it is kind of like a systemic thing where, and again, like I'm finding there are more female Asian creatives that are kind of established or becoming established or getting themselves out there compared to the males, because I think there is the stigma of, you know, oh, you're going to go be a writer, you know, what's that going to do for you? You know, you're going to go be a director. Well, who's going to hire you and who's going to tell your story? You know, I think there's more of a fear for the guys to kind of take that leap. You know, so, you know, I'm getting out there and talking to people and encouraging them, and it's not leave everything behind and follow your dream. You know, one of the things that I'm kind of preaching to everyone is, and I've helped with a lot of the people that I've hired, that I've met, is like, look, find a job in the industry. You know, whether it's being a PA or an office assistant, or if you can get into props, or if you can get into something like anything, get into the industry. Because then, one, you're getting paid to learn. Two, you're meeting people. And three, you're, you know, the industry pays well. You know, like where can you go and your starting salary is, you know, $20 an hour with no resume, you know, and then you're going to work 12 hours a day and get massive overtime, and you're going to get fed. Right? Craft, yeah. Exactly. So, you know, it can be hand in hand. So it's like, you don't have to think that it's like, oh, I have to give up everything and, you know, starve and, you know, to be a writer or to be a director. It's like, if you want to do it, you can do it. Like, I know people who have full-time jobs who shot short films and even a feature film on weekends. You know, 8 weekends in a row they were filming. You know, there's nothing stopping you these days, especially with technology. You know, you can go shoot your movie on a phone, right? So, yeah. So going back to kind of the talent pool, yes, it's not huge. Yes, it's growing. And I think more people are starting to realize that there is, you know, this avenue of creativity that they can follow.
Amazing. This is incredible. I swear we could go for hours with you and to talk about this whole thing, but almost just to wrap it up there, though, it does seem like Vancouver is a great city to be creative at the same time, but also there are barriers too. If you could like redesign Vancouver's creative spaces and everything like that, what's one of the major things that you would do to really, you know, have more people go into the more creative spaces there?
I think Vancouver already has a lot to offer in that, in the sense that, you know, we've got a lot of film schools, we've got a lot of, you know, art schools, all that kind of stuff. The film industry is a very prominent thing in our city. And, you know, aside from me going to high schools and giving talks and saying, hey, there's an industry here that you can be in, it really comes down to people just getting out there themselves. And one of the hard parts with writers is that, you know, most of the time you sit in your room and you write, you know, and there's no business mindset. There's no nothing. You're being creative. Well, you got to get out there. You got to meet people. You got to network. And obviously that's even harder with COVID these days. So one of the things that I am doing is, you know, with VAF, with everything else, you know, networking and stuff, is I'm just learning to connect to people. And, you know, I've reached out to some of the top Asian creatives in Canada and said, look, you know, a lot of them have said like, yeah, like I'm in a writer's room. I'm usually the only Asian. And they say, hey, we'll look to hire a script coordinator, like a junior person. We want to hire someone Asian. And they go, I don't know anybody. And it's not their fault, but it's also because there's no way for anybody to connect. You know, the great thing about COVID is that now we have Zoom as a normal thing. So it's so much easier for me to go, oh, hey, so-and-so in Toronto, I want you to meet these 3 people in Vancouver. I think they're great writers, or I think they're great up and coming producers. You know, they could be assistants, they could be whatever, or maybe you want to read their writing sample, and then they have a Zoom coffee and they're off to the races, you know. And then it's up to the senior people to kind of look out for and, you know, give opportunities to the younger people.
Amazing. Just get started. That's the main thing, though, right? Like, just
It's
do
get
it.
started, and just like a lot of people are like, oh, you should start an organization, and you should do, you can do panels, and you can do these kind of things, and those are valuable and great. But for
Mhm.
me, it's really just connecting people on a grassroots level,
Yep.
and then bringing people up that way. To me, that's it comes down to, it's connecting people for the purpose of some type of mentorship. And I think that's the one biggest thing that I've been challenging a lot of people to, is saying, okay, it's not mentorship in that you have to have somebody beside you all the time and, always, you know, giving them advice and all this kind of stuff. It's like, giving them your email address and saying, hey, what do you want to do? And they're like, I want to be in a writer's room. It's like, okay, what kind of writer's room do you want to be in? And they say, I want to write comedy. It's like, great, go write 3 spec scripts, or go write 1 spec script, or take, your favorite TV show and write an episode. And then when you've got that, send it to me and I'll critique it. And then all of a sudden you've got writing samples, and you've got somebody who's read it and give you feedback. And then somebody who might go, wow, this is great. I'm going to send it to my friend, So that's kind of, to me, a way to kind of have people jump up. And it goes back to me when I was up and coming as a wannabe writer director, and nobody would produce me. So I learned how to produce myself. And then I got recruited as a producer, and then I learned how to produce more and more, and I climbed the ladder.
Mm-hmm.
But I never had anyone to call and say, hey, like, I have this idea, or I want to do this, or can you help me with this? Like, I never really had anyone. I had, a few directors here and there give me some advice, but no one I could really, really lean on, or no one that would read a script from me. And, so I'm trying to create that space in a not organized, but organized way.
Yeah.
Aaron, really thank you for creating that space, though, to a space that you never got when you were, going up the ladder. But it does say a lot that, if you didn't get that space, you still create one for the future generation, because it does mean a lot for Vancouver. So thanks for doing that, man.
Thank you. No problem.
Yeah.
More to come. I'm on that ground. That goes back to my saying no, is because that in that world, I'm not there yet. We're not there yet, right? It's starting, and it's new, but I think it's got good momentum, and we've found great people, and we found great allies, and everyone is out to kind of do the same thing right now. So we'll get there.
Amazing. Nice. Love it.
Well, you're giving me so much hope for the future, Aaron.
Yeah.
So much hope for the future. That's what this podcast is about as well. Like, giving our listeners a little insight in the process of making it, how to get started, getting some advice from people in the industry. And I think what you've shared today definitely is very valuable information for, like, the Asian listeners that are out there that might be interested in joining the movement. So really appreciate it.
No problem. And like I said, on everything else, like, you can find me online. Brightlightpictures.com is our website. My email's on there. To any of you up and coming creators out there, if I haven't met you yet, reach out, like, send me an email. Don't be shy. A lot of people have been shy, and they wait months and months, and then they see me again, and I've hired so-and-so, and I've hired so-and-so, and I'm developing this, and they're like, I missed it. It's never too late. Reach out. I need to know who's out there, because that's the only way we'll get people up.
Absolutely. We'll definitely include your email in our video descriptions and everything as well.
Cool.
Awesome. Let's do a quick round of some word association for 2022 there.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay. So for our new listeners, this is what we like to do on the podcast. At the end of our podcast, we like to ask our guests a word association game. Just, clear our heads, get a little loose. So I'll have 10 words. Lucas will also have 10 words. And Aaron, your job is to clear your mind. And as you hear each word, just say the first word that comes to mind. It could be an image. It could be, like, I don't know, a memory, something like that. And then we'll just go through each word one by one, and we'll see what we get.
All right.
How are you feeling?
I'm more nervous about this than anything else.
All right. Don't worry. Just it'll be good. All right. So, Aaron, clear your mind, empty it of thoughts. And I'll start with my 10 words. So your first word is childhood.
Fun.
Banana.
Complicated.
Sun.
Oh, my world.
Solitude.
Huh. I don't know. Interesting.
Next word. Goal.
Moving.
River.
Bruce Lee.
Nice. Nice. Goat. All right. Next word is circle.
Infinite.
Kumquat.
Can't picture it.
Next word is winning.
Never there. Always seeking.
And last word is finish.
Never there. Always seeking.
Nice, nice. All right. Those are my 10 words. Very interesting answers. Definitely like the Bruce Lee one. Flow like a river or like be like water. All of that. Lucas, your turn.
All right. Okay. First word of 10. Vancouver.
Home.
Stunts.
Fun.
Asian.
That's an interesting one. I don't know. You stumped me on that one.
Oh.
Maybe it's, you know what? It's complex.
Complex. Like it.
Yeah.
Okay. Next word, film.
Passion.
Directing.
Passion as well.
Acting.
Respect, in the sense that I respect them so much because I can't do it.
Happy to do it. Community.
Important.
Nice. Bridge Studios.
It's been home for me for 7 years.
Nice. Nice. Caffeine.
A necessity.
And your last word, Aaron.
I don't know what to say. Still going.
There we are.
Going.
Give it up for Aaron. There we are. Awesome. Yeah, we'll link it all below too, but quickly, just what are your handles and social media?
I don't really like, I'm kind of on Facebook, but considering leaving. And I'm not really much of a social media guy. I just email.
Oof. Email. That's kind of like, you know what? Just find me on email. That's where everybody's at.
Yeah.
Nice. Cool.
Amazing.
Yeah, we'll have that linked in and everything there for you. Just to let you guys know as well, for me, social media handles, you can follow me at Josh Yang Comedy. And of course, if you have trouble sleeping, you can listen to the Sleep with Josh podcast, where I read genuinely boring materials like laws, the dictionary, terms of service, as nobody reads that. So I read it and you can fall asleep to it. So the Sleep with Josh podcast. And Lucas, what are your handles?
I'm really hoping this won't cut out again, but you can find me across social media, be it Instagram or Facebook at Lucas John Ing. And if you like what you see and hear, you can follow us on Instagram or wherever you listen to your podcasts at HWMIY podcast there. Give it up for Aaron one more time. Give it up for Vancouver and Aaron and all the people building that community. It's incredible. Thank you so much, Aaron.
Thank you both for having me.
Awesome. Awesome. We'll see you all in 2 weeks' time then. See you later.
Bye.